Good evening and welcome to Dartmouth Town Hall for our Candidates Forum 2024. I'm Paul Santos, your moderator. I'd like to welcome you in and explain that this is a collaboration between Dartmouth Community Television and the publication Dartmouth Week. I would like to remind people in the audience that they should refrain from talking and applause until the end of the forum. Would like to let people know the schedule of events. First of all, we are going to have the Board of Assessors. That's going to be followed by the Board of Library Trustees, then the School Committee, and then finally the Select Board. Would like to set out the ground rules for tonight's debate. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. The candidate in the first seat on the dais, the one closest to the podium here, will go first. Candidates will be asked questions from the panelists. The first candidate will be given 1:30 to answer, and each candidate after will be given 1 minute. The first question will be answered first by the candidate in the first seat, and then we continue to move on down the line. The second question will be answered first by the candidate in the second seat, and then we move on down the line with the candidate in the first seat answering last. Again, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a closing statement. I would also like to explain that we drew the names for seat positions earlier in the night, and that's how we ended up with the positions that we have right here. At this time, I would like to introduce our panelists for tonight. From the Dartmouth Week, the editor, Ms. Leah Beausoleil. At this time, we'd like to introduce the candidate for Board of Assessor. I would like everyone to know that Albert Lay could not attend due to a prior commitment. So at this time, we'd like to introduce his video candidate statement that will play right here on the projection screen.
One of the most important votes on the Town of Dartmouth April 2nd ballot is the Board of Assessors. Yes, the Board of Assessors. My name is Albert Lay, and I'm running for a seat on the board. The board supports an essential financial function. When executing its fiduciary duty for the town, I believe it is incumbent upon the board to ensure that property owners are fairly treated and the valuation processes are transparent. This is why I, Albert Lay, am asking you for your vote on April 2nd. My wife Nancy and I purchased a home in Dartmouth in 2003. We are now retired. We both serve as town meeting members and have been members for several years. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering, and I've worked 39 years in the insurance industry. The Commissioner of Revenue requires newly elected or appointed assessors to complete a training course and receive a certificate of completion. I have both the knowledge and background required to successfully complete this course. Property inspections are required by the Department of Revenue at least once every 10 years. The 10-year inspection is currently in progress. Once completed, the board will reassess our properties and adjust our valuations accordingly. With my knowledge of data analysis, I am the right candidate to take advantage of this opportunity to be an advocate for property owners. Property owners should be able to understand their property assessment and easily compare it to comparable properties in town. Should I be elected, I will encourage the board to make the following changes. First, broadcast board meetings on Dartmouth Community TV. Second, invite property owners to present their abatement case to the board. Third, provide property data in a format where property owners can easily compare their property with similar town properties. And fourth, facilitate the prompt hiring of a permanent full-time administrator of assessing, an office that's been vacant for at least 2 years. The Board of Assessors is critical to the town operation. It is especially important that this essential financial service functions at the highest level. I think we can do better. On April 2nd, a vote for Albert Lay is a vote for a property owner advocate. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That was the video recording of the candidate statement of the candidate for Board of Assessor, Mr. Albert Lay. This time, we'd like to go to the opening statement of this gentleman here. We turn it over to Mr. Curtis Nunes. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Paul. My name is Curtis Nunes, and I am running for my second 3-year term on the Board of Assessors. My family has been in Dartmouth for over 100 years, with my grandparents settling here in the early 1900s. My grandfather had one of the first grocery stores in town in Bliss Corner. He's also on the building committee of both DeMello and Potter schools. Dartmouth means a lot to me. I born and raised, went to the school system, very impressed, made sure I came back and raised, well, never left, but raised my family here. And now the children that my wife and I raised represent the fourth generation that have graduated from our great Dartmouth school system. Politics never been my thing, but when you want to speak up and complain about what's going on around town and somebody says, well, there's only one way to change things, you get involved. So that's when I started my first term years ago on as a town meeting member. I eventually got a little more involved, got the courage to speak up about issues that I felt strongly about. I remember 1 year ago, the beach. Round Hill is my favorite place in town. And they had talked about changing the whole ecosystem down there, really making some changes that really would have threatened, I think, the enjoyment, the enjoyment of that great asset. So we got a little group together, we got involved. I went to the site meetings, talked to town officials, select board members, et cetera. And then we came here for a meeting and we swung the vote 3-2 our way, and the beach stayed the same way, that it was. And that was a good feeling to experience the power of the people, or the power of the public, as I call it. 3 years ago, I went to the polls with my wife to vote, and there was no names under the Board of Assessors. I thought that, I didn't like to see that. So I stepped up, wrote my name in. My wife wrote my name in, had some friends do the same. I did that for two reasons. I thought it was a shame nobody was running. And with my extensive real estate background, this department is about property values and assessing property, and that's what I do for a living. I've lived in Dartmouth for over 60 years, been buying and selling property in this area since 1983. I own a company in town, and I've literally looked at every property that has sold in this town since 2002. And I feel that I'm the best qualified to help place fair values on approximately 15,000 properties in town, and that is our number one function on this board. My first year on the board, I tried to listen and learn. The people I'm working with have been on this board since the 1980s, the two gentlemen that I'm working with, and it's been a great learning experience. The second year, I got a little more involved. You learn the ropes. Every year is a cycle in our department. And then this past year, I've really dug down deep and felt that I brought some value to the table, made some considerate contributions. A couple of things on what my candidate has mentioned about changes, why we're not on television.
Time's up, Mr. Nunes. I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
Time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, the first question of the night is going to be asked by Dartmouth Week editor Leah Beausoleil, and you're going to have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond to this question.
Okay.
The town of Dartmouth currently has a split tax rate for businesses and residents with a 10% small commercial business exemption. Do you support keeping this split tax rate and exemption? Please explain why or why not.
I am absolutely for the split tax rate. Is one of the things that I found not right in this department. I think that the commercial property values are, the state kind of restricts us on certain things, how far we can value certain properties, and we don't have a lot of control. And without that split tax rate, it would, the residents would just, the bills would be just so, a lot higher. People think we have high taxes in this town. We really don't. We rank very low. Being in real estate, I see taxes all over the state, and nobody's close to us. They've done a great job. I've only been here 3 years. I'm not taking credit for that. The town in general has done a great job. And yes, the small business exemption is, they need all the help they can get in these times, and I'm for that also.
All right, the next question will be asked by me to you, Mr. Nunes, and you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond to this one. Discussion on abatements and exemptions are held during executive session to protect individuals' private information. However, once approved, all abatements and exemptions granted are recorded in an abatement book, which is open to mandatory disclosure under the Public Records Law. Currently, when the board votes on these exemptions in open session, they vote on the application number with no other information. Will you support a policy that all motions to approve or deny an abatement or exemption include all the information that is required to be entered into the abatement book to be more transparent in the process? Please explain why or why not.
Okay, I'm not I'm not familiar with a lot of what you said. But if that's allowable, and that's allowed by law, then I'm all for it. The more transparent, the better. So I'm not exactly familiar with what we're allowed to put on those forms. I don't, create them. We just, we take guidance from our assessor and from the research they do. So it'd be something that I'll definitely look into. I don't know what the public can walk in and over the counter and see. I just know that the abatements are they're confidential. We're not allowed to talk about them. We're not allowed to share that, and that's why it's done in executive session. And I understand. I was told that that's why DCTV doesn't do our meetings, because most of what we do is confidential, and it's not much of a telecast, so they don't they don't televise it. So yeah, I'm all in favor of that, as long as that's all allowable by law, that we're allowed to display that information.
All right, the next question is by Leah Beausoleil. Again, you have a minute 30 to answer this one, Mr. Nunes.
What is your thought process on granting or denying abatements and exemptions?
Could you repeat that, please?
What is your thought process on granting or denying abatements and exemptions?
Well, the assessor of town, they do all the research, all the data. Then they present to the board their recommendation on that individual property. We get maybe 80 to 100, about 80 to 100 a year. I'm not sure what we have, so far this year. The process is they recommend, so we get two sheets when we sit down in a meeting. One is what the assessor recommends that we deny with some reasonings along with it. The other sheet is a spreadsheet of what he thinks we should abate and why. And then we dig into it, and of course we look at some of the bigger amounts. If you see a property going from 1.2 million to 1.8 million, that's or vice versa, an abatement going the other way, it's where's that money going? And you look at that. Sometimes it's clerical errors, and we just dig into each one and discuss them, and then we vote on them.
All right, at this time, Mr. Nunes, we've arrived at the closing statement, so you have 3 minutes to make your closing.
All right, I'll finish that when I started. So, yeah, qualification department for me, I've lived in town for over 60 years again. I look at property every day, and I've always concentrated on Dartmouth because that's where most of my business is, and it's where my whole life's been. Going back to, a few things that have been requested to change by my opponent, we talked about one, being on TV. That's not our choice. We don't refuse it. Nobody's ever asked me if we want to be on TV. I don't know how that process works. I was just told our meetings are boring, and a lot of it's confidential. As far as residents presenting their own abatements, every resident presents their own abatements. That's how we do it. They send in a form to the town, and we look at it. If they want to be there in person, they can get on our next meeting agenda, and they can come in and state their own case. So that is allowed. To have property comparables available to the residents, so you can compare your property to your neighbor. We have it. We just spent $350,000 to improve all that information. As you probably know, there are people out taking pictures of your houses. They're measuring. That's to improve all that information. But you can look at that information now. You, your neighbor, look at square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, tax assessments. All that information's on our website, on the town website. And as far as hiring an assessor, yeah, when I got in, we knew the assessor was going to retire 3 years ago. And but we brought somebody in, didn't work out. They put another candidate in front of us, and we rejected him. And but now we have hired an assessor, so we're very happy. We're bringing up somebody through the ranks. We've sent her to school. She's doing a fantastic job, and we're very happy with her work. So in closing, I'd love your support on April 2nd. I've started some things that I really would like to have another 3 years to finish. I mentioned before at another event that one thing I want to do is propose changes. It's been decades since we have changed the elderly exemptions. You have to be 70 years old. You have to be a resident for 10 years. You have to be a property owner for 5 years. You can't make more than $25,000 in income, $38,000 if you're married. These are rough numbers. You can't have more than $40,000 to $55,000 in assets, not counting your home. And these income limits go up with inflation that really haven't caught up. So I really want to focus on that. These people need our help, and that's one thing that I want to make change. And we can afford it. We can afford to do it in our department. So I'd love to have your support and keep working for the town. Some days I fight for the town, and some days I fight for you, the residents, because every situation is different. Thank you for your time.
All right, Curtis Nunes, thank you very much for attending our candidates forum tonight. At this time, we'd like to move straight ahead over to the candidates for Board of Library Trustees. Would like to remind everyone that you'll be voting for two of these candidates on Election Day, and that both incumbents for these seats on the board, Stanley Belusiak and Eileen Levine, have chosen not to run this time around. This time, we'd like to introduce the candidates. First of all, in seat number 1 is Linda Garibaldi. In seat number 2 is Maya Wolfson. In seat number 3 is Mary Ann Cole. Again, two of these candidates you will be voting for on Election Day. At this time, we'd like to start with the opening statements. Again, these opening statements will be 3 minutes long, and we'd like to begin with candidate number 1, Linda Garibaldi.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Linda Garibaldi, and I'm running for the 3-year term for Board of Library Trustees. I have already served for approximately 7 months as a library trustee. Last year, the Select Board appointed me to fill a vacancy that then expires at this election. It's been a very interesting 7 months. I have enjoyed it. I've learned a lot, and I know I have a lot more to learn, and I feel honored that I've been able to serve the town in this way. Dartmouth Library is exceptionally good. It also has an exceptionally good staff. I am enormously impressed with their professionalism and with their enthusiasm for what they do and how they do it, and that includes our new library director also. I have lived in Dartmouth for 21 years. I am a retired attorney, a legal services attorney. My husband and I chose to live in Dartmouth, and we chose to stay here after we retired. And we both believe that we should give back to our community. I've been very fortunate to be able to volunteer in different areas over the years, including as a representative for town meeting. And I enjoyed serving on the town's search committee last year for the new library director. I am past president of the Friends of the Dartmouth Libraries, where I served as an active board member for many years. I also learned much about the library during those years, much more than I ever knew. I worked with the Friends on many projects to provide needed tangible support for both of the branches, and equally as important, I think, was to promote awareness during that time of all the invaluable resources that we have that are accessible to everybody in the library, regardless of ages. Besides the library's literary sort of collection and its computer access for everybody, there are extensive digital and e-resources that people don't even realize that are there, things that you don't see and you don't even think of when you walk into the library and what you see right off. There is so much there that people really don't understand, or not understand, but don't even understand that it's there, know that it's there, and are aware of it. We have programs and presentations for all ages. We have the discount tickets for the museums. We have crafts. We have book groups. We have many, many things, including we have certified passport agents. We have notaries. There's a lot there. So, as I said, I'm very, very proud of the library. I'm very fortunate. I also have 8 children.
Time is up, please.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Garibaldi. Now, candidate number 2, your 3-minute opening statement, Mayor Wolfson.
Sure. So first, I just wanted to thank Dartmouth Week and DCTV for having this tonight. So hi, I'm Maya Wolfson. I'm running for the 3-year library trustee board position and hope to garner your support. The Dartmouth Library is a bedrock of our community for education, learning, and reading. It is a valuable public space that provides vital resources and services to our community, catering to all ages with varying interests across our community. It provides a diverse range of written and electronic materials, as well as space to access programs and speakers and host local groups. I want to ensure that the Dartmouth Library continues to provide and improve upon these offerings and is just as relevant for my young daughter as libraries have been to me throughout my life. As a library trustee, I would work collaboratively to achieve these goals. I believe my professional background and experience in operations, strategic planning, and budgeting provide me with a skill set that will be invaluable to the library trustees. I will help keep the library functioning at its highest level. I will be able to successfully collaborate with fellow trustees, the library director, the Friends of the Library, and Dartmouth residents to ensure that the vision and presence of our library not only continues to be invaluable, but also evolves and expands with the needs of the community. I will be able to dive into and help make sure a solid budget is in place. Briefly on my background, for over a decade, I was a program manager at a top-tier law firm in New York City. I ran a department as well as worked closely with partners and leaders across the firm to achieve collective goals. I have a BA from Northwestern University and an MBA from the Zicklin School of Business, Baruch College. If elected to be a library trustee, I would be a dedicated member who learns from the current trustees, keeps an open mind, and helps implement strategic plans. I would also not shy away from leading initiatives when appropriate. More broadly, I want to be involved in and give back to the Dartmouth community. I feel I can achieve this by being a library trustee and helping ensure the continued success of our library. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And now, Mary Ann Cole.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Cole. I'm a candidate for the position of trustee for the Dartmouth Libraries. A little bit about myself. I am a graduate of the Dartmouth school system. I also graduated from UMass Dartmouth when it was called Southeastern Massachusetts University. I've lived in Dartmouth all my life and am a mother of 3 adult children. When my children were young, they attended the story time and the summer programs at the library, which they enjoyed. My children went to Gidley School, so they would walk across the street and always enjoyed their time picking out books. And we always went there on our own too, so they ended up getting books from home too. As a member of the trustees, I would like to see other children have the opportunities to enjoy these services of the library system. The world has changed since my children's involvement with the library, with the technology and the new ways information is accessed. But the library still offers many programs and services to help all patrons of all ages. We need to be ready to meet the needs of the community, whether it be technology updates or innovative programs and equipment accessible for all patrons. As a trustee, I would like to see what resources, services, and programs patrons would like to see implemented, and if possible, be part of that process to make those things accessible. I'd also work with the current board of the trustee members to learn what I can, and also offer input from my position as someone who has never been on a board before, just a patron of the libraries. We have so much to offer everyone, and I'd like to also get out to the community what is available. Like these ladies have said, there are so many programs that the community doesn't even know that are available to the public. So we need to make sure that that's out into the public. I'd ask for your vote on April 2nd for me to fill this position. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our opening statements. We now move on to the very first question. It'll be asked by Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Week. It'll be for candidate Linda Garibaldi. You have 1:30 to respond.
As a user of the library, what types of new services or programs would you like to see the Dartmouth library system add?
New programs. I want it to keep evolving and keep meeting the needs of the community. I'm trying to think of more programs that I would like to have. That's interesting because I'm pretty well versed in what it already has, and you can find almost anything you want. And whether you're studying or working or I'm just there to enjoy it, I'm thinking of all the resources that I see. And as far as a new program, I know one thing I'd like to see. We have about 3,800 children who use the library, school children who used the library last year for both libraries. And I'd like to see more involvement from the schools. We have a special advantage having that new library, the North Branch be so close to Potter School, and then the other one is so close to Cushman, and the others aren't all that far away. I would like to see, I think, a little bit more connection there between the two for more children coming in. It's not exactly a resource. I honestly can't think of anything off the top of my head because there is just so much there that I find extremely useful and accessible. So,
All right, Maya Wolfson, you have 1 minute to respond.
Sure. So I think, as Linda said, the most important thing is that we want to make sure that we have services that meet the needs of the community. Selfishly, since I have a 8-month-old daughter, and going forward using the library, we've gone to baby songs and love that, so more programs for children, but there are wonderful already reading programs. But adding a few more in, that would be wonderful for me. But in addition to that, I think the area might be more teens. There are actually there are the baby songs, there's reading programs for younger children, but there seems to be a little bit of a gap more for teenagers in this community. So having something for them at the library potentially would be great. In addition to that, kind of this concept of a library of things has been thrown around, where the library provides more things like tools or sports equipment, or really finds out what the needs are of the community, what pieces of equipment they would be useful to be able to rent or to use and to access from the library, and then provide that to them.
All right, Mary Ann Cole, 1 minute to respond.
Like these ladies have said, there are so many programs that are available right now. It's kind of hard to say anything, but just keep updating with technology. AI, filling gaps with different age groups, have more programs for the elderly. I know the senior citizen, the COA is really good with their programs, but maybe we can offer some programs for the seniors in the north section of town so that they won't have to travel so far to the Council on Aging. That's about it.
All right, thank you. I'll be asking the second question, and it's going to go first to Maya Wolfson, and you're going to have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. Should the library have written selection criteria policies to guide staff in purchasing new materials? If yes, what types of criteria would you like to see in this policy? If not, why not?
So I believe at the moment, I'm not an expert on it, but I believe there is written material for what should or should not be at the library. And the library director is the one that helps determine that and write those policies. And I believe they are up on the website. The American Library Association, I think, also helps write for what should be within a library. So as a trustee, I feel they're the experts in the matter, and they're the ones who determine this, not the trustees, and we just help support them and implement that. Whatever is up there should be sound. It should make sense. I think our community is a diverse community. Everything that's put within the library should be, should also be diverse and should meet the needs of everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, thank you. Mary Ann Cole, you have 1 minute.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Should the library have written selection criteria policies to guide staff in purchasing new materials? If yes, what types of criteria would you like to see in this policy? If not, why not?
I believe they should have criteria. If there's set policy already, continue with that. See if, as everything goes on, if things change, then the criteria should be looked upon too. If there is a special state organizations, comply with those, and just go on for how everything changes, just make those changes to make sure that the information is available for people who are using our facilities.
All right, thank you. Linda Garibaldi, you have 1 minute.
Okay. There are very broad written requirements or recommendations, as Maya said, from the American Library Association that the library follows. I believe that the collection should be broad. I believe that it should be diverse. I believe we have very well-trained and expert librarians, including, of course, the library director, and they are all well-informed and spend tremendous time reviewing and researching every bit that goes into the library, no matter whether it is digital, whether or not it's hard copy. And they are certainly to be trusted for what they decide to do. I would like everything in there as to be reflective of the world and factual and sort of tell the whole truth on history.
Time is up. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Thank you. All right, our third question will be asked by Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Week. It'll go to candidate Mary Ann Cole, and you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this question. Leah?
What personal or professional skills would you bring to the board?
I think, first of all, just being a patron, what I would like to see in the library. Also, I have most of my career was in newspapers and advertising. So maybe use those to promote the services and programs that are available, get those out into the public, whether it's working through schools, organizations within the community, and just make those all aware. I was not aware of some of the programs like the passports and the some of the other programs, the notary. I was not aware that they had those programs. So this has been sort of an eye-opening thing for me. But just make sure that all the services that we offer are made known to everyone in the community. And also maybe get those people, or get suggestions from people of services that maybe we can provide through the libraries, available for them.
All right, thank you. Linda Garibaldi, 1 minute.
Okay, I need you to, would you please repeat the question? I know it was short.
What personal or professional skills would you bring to the board?
I would hope to bring, for one thing, I have learned a lot about the library in the last 7 months, and then through working with the Friends. So I've had a lot of experience that way as far as the Dartmouth libraries go, and I have volunteered in libraries for many years in different places. My professional skills are probably perhaps hooked into that a bit, and then some of the skills that I may remember from when I practiced as an attorney. I'm also the mother of 8 children and the grandmother of 12 lovely grandchildren. And so as a patron, what Mary Ann was talking about too, I certainly have my love of library. It's a lifelong love that I've tried to instill in them also. So that kind of a commitment and a love for libraries, I think, are probably that's the best that I have to give.
Wolfson, 1 minute, please.
So here's where I really think, as I said in my opening statement, my professional skills really would make me be a great trustee. I have strategic planning background, operations, finance, HR, and all of those things are skills that the trustees use throughout the year for a strategic plan. They're actually in the middle of working on a strategic plan, so as the community evolves and figure out what to do with the library the next 5, 10 years and so forth, and they're working with a consultant, so I've done strategic plans at my old job, so I could really come in and help with that. Same thing with HR. They did hire the library director last year, so hopefully she will be around for a while, but working with her, finances, I can work with spreadsheets, I can help with the budget, all of that's familiar to me, and I won't shy away from it. So I think all of that will really help.
All right, thank you very much. We now move on to question number 4, which I will be asking first to Linda Garibaldi. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this question. What major challenges do you expect the Dartmouth library system to face in the next few years, and how can you overcome it?
I think part of one of the major challenges may be the Southworth facility. The facility itself is aging, and I think that may be a challenge specific to Dartmouth. I am concerned too about budget. We can't help, I think we all know what's happening with schools, our schools, and all the different pulls on our budget. So I believe that may be among the two largest ones. Other than that, I hope that people will not see the library as just being, as I said, traditional, what you see when you walk in the door and you see books and stacks of books, that they realize that it's really a center and an invaluable resource. So I believe that that's a bit of a challenge to get the word out so that people know to use what's there for them.
All right, Mayor Wolfson, 1 minute.
So I agree with Linda that I think one of the major challenges in the near future is with capital improvement, because as Linda said, the Southworth Library is, I think, either around or over 50 years old, and there are issues with it. There's been asbestos issues, there's issues with the HVAC system, the boiler and pipes have had issues and have leaked, roofs have caved in. So these are all things that are natural and happen with time with an older building. I know we have this issue with the school system as well, but these are something that in the near future we're gonna have to deal with and figure out how to improve them. And it's also a time with, as we're fixing these things, it's the same time to take advantage of while we fix these problems, also think about how else we can improve our library, what else we can do with the space, how we can kind of modernize it and make it more usable to whatever the needs are of the community now and in the future.
All right, Mary Ann Cole, 1 minute.
Like Linda and Maya have said, basically our major problem is the finances. We need to look at the buildings as they age, what could be used, how they could be maybe restructured, remodeled to, especially the Southworth Library, because of its age. Maybe there could be a different layout planned in remodeling or fixing problems. And we just have to look forward to what we could add, looking forward into the future, maybe project a little bit what we think that might entail to go into the future with as technology advances, make those changes as we go along.
All right, our next question will be asked by Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Week. It will go first to Mayor Wolfson. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question.
How often have you used the Dartmouth libraries over the past 3 years, and what types of services have you used?
Yep. So I use it on a fair amount. The biggest thing that I use the library for is for the books. So, I have a e-reader at home, but I still do like a traditional book. So I will, use the e-sales, pick something out ahead of time, go pick up a book. I've also gone in and browsed the shelves. So that's probably the biggest use that I've in the past 3 years have utilized, but I've also used them, looked into their passport services. Right now with my young daughter, I have started going to baby songs, which is great, and Miss Christie is amazing, and that's something that I hope to, if I can get her sleep schedule, continue to use, and that's something for me in the near future, that's, the children's programs. Reading is really important to me. I read my daughter a book every night, so that's something I see myself continuing to use. I guess I haven't necessarily used that the past 3 years for her, but going forward.
All right, Mary Ann Cole, 1 minute.
The services I've used of the library is basically the community room. I belong to a group that uses the library for meetings. And going back before 3 years, I used to use it for getting books, because I do have an iPad, I do have an e-reader, the computer, but I like that book in my hand. And if you went to my house now, you'd see that I have way too many books in my house. But I am a believer of books, of paper, of actual physical books. And I would, probably want to maybe look into some of the other services. I did look into one of the author sessions that they had, and I watched that, which was very interesting, because the author was actually a favorite of my son's, and he was very upset that he didn't get to see it when it was.
Thank you. Linda Garibaldi, 1 minute, please.
Yes, definitely use it for books. I too like to have a hardcover or a paperback in my hand often, and also have e-reader, which I use at night, actually. And I also use, I'm a person who has, I guess, an older car, although it's not all that old, but I still have a CD player in my car, so I listen to books all the time in my car. And so I use it, I'm keeping that circulation going all the time at the library. I also take a look, I'm in the library at least a couple times a week, if not more, and I always take a look at their newspapers because I don't take that many newspapers any longer. And so I do stop and see what the daily and maybe the paper the day before was, or the paper that I don't normally see. And my youngest grandchild is now 6, so I've been taking her to the story time when she was 3 and 4 and before she was off at school, so I was there then, every week for that and enjoying every minute of it.
Time
and
is
then
up.
also meetings. So.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on now to the closing statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to give their closing statements. We're going to reverse the order and start with Mary Ann Cole.
Hi. As far as the position, I would be very open to working with the trustees or the community to find out what is needed, to bring any changes to technology as well as programs to the library. And I look at it through a patron's eyes as opposed to somebody who's already been on a board, or which is very, very, very beneficial. But I want to see it as what I can do to make my experiences in the library beneficial, and I'm sure that my point of view is the same as a lot of other people in town. So again, I just ask for your consideration for voting for me on April 2nd.
All right, Maya Wolfson, 3-minute closing statement.
So as was mentioned at the beginning of the night, the trustees are losing 2 great members, Eileen and Stanley, and they've both been on the board for a while. And if you think about it, there's 6 members, so they're a third of the board. So there's a lot to be filled. Both of those members do a lot. So I recognize that these are big shoes to fill, and I'm ready to do that. I feel I have the energy, passion, and skills to be a library trustee. As we've all stated up here, we have a wonderful public library, and I think I would be a great advocate and really help implement whatever needs are within the trustees. I will help the trustees ensure that our library remains accessible, relevant, and useful to everyone in our community. So please vote for me early or on April 2nd. Thank you.
Linda Garibaldi, closing statement.
Yes, thank you. As we all saying, we obviously love the library, all 3 of us, and it is an exceptionally good library. I honestly feel, truthfully, has been an honor to serve it for the last 7 months, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly and enjoyed everything that I keep learning about it. And I would really like the opportunity to keep using my skills to keep guiding it and keep watch over it and be a library trustee in the future. I would like to keep it moving in the same direction that it's going, is what I want to do. I believe that it's on the right path. I believe we have very good professionals working there and their staff, and they feel the same way. They're proud of it too, and they're proud of what they do. I really can't say much more except, please enjoy your library, take advantage of it, and I would appreciate if you would vote for me on April 2nd.
All right, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all our candidates for being here tonight. Mary Ann Cole, Maya Wolfson, and Linda Garibaldi for participating in our candidates forum tonight. Do want to remind everyone here watching and here tonight that you'll be voting for 2 of the 3 candidates on Election Day. Also, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be right back with the school committee candidates in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. We are back here live at Town Hall, our Candidates Forum 2024. I'm Paul Santos, your moderator. At this time, we'd like to introduce the candidates for school committee. Do want to remind everyone that you will be voting for one of these candidates on Election Day. Incumbent Shannon Jenkins has chosen not to run this time. This time I'd like to introduce the candidates. First of all, in seat number 1 is Kyle Ross, and in seat number 2 is Mary Beckwith. We always begin with the opening statements. You've got 3 minutes. We begin with Kyle Ross.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Ross, and I am here tonight because I am asking for your vote for Dartmouth School Committee. I currently reside in the town of Dartmouth with my wife and 3 young boys. My desire to be involved with public service in town government began at an early age. I spent many years as a young adult coaching youth sports. After the birth of my first son, decided to run for school committee. While I was not elected that year, I found several other ways to get involved. I am still very involved in coaching sports in the town, currently coaching baseball and football. I have also been a member of the Dartmouth Conservation Commission over the past 10 years, where I served as vice chairman for a period. Serving on the Conservation Commission gave me the experience and training on how to facilitate meetings with the public and a greater understanding of how town politics operate. Professionally, I have served in the public safety sector for almost 10 years. For over 6 years, I've proudly held a position as a supervisor in a field which requires critical thinking and strong communication skills. Contrary to what some may think of a man working in corrections, it has actually provided me with a sense of empathy and understanding for the inequities that are found in our diverse community. This time last year, I was proud to have been chosen out of a pool of over 20 applicants to be the parent representative on the superintendent search committee for our Dartmouth Public Schools. Sitting on this board gave me insight into what a strong leader we ultimately chose in appointing Dr. Saban McGuire. I look forward to seeing what impact her positive influence will make on our schools. I'm speaking to you today as a father, coach, and your neighbor. I am an involved parent who truly cares about the importance of equal and inclusive opportunities for all. I am a proven leader with no personal agendas. I make my decisions after thorough research and based on facts, not feelings. If elected, I look forward to bringing the community together for the betterment of our children and our educators.
Thank you. Now let's go to Mary Beckwith. You have a 3-minute opening statement.
Good evening, and thank you to DCTV and Dartmouth Week for this forum. My name is Mary Beckwith, and I am a candidate for school committee. I have never run for elected office before. When asked why I'm running, I simply state that I want to serve my community. My wife Jill and I moved to Dartmouth almost 22 years ago. At that time, we knew we wanted to become parents, and we chose Dartmouth in large part because of the fine public schools. Our son Isaiah joined our family in 2006, attended Quinn School, the middle school, and in a few short months will graduate from Dartmouth High School. I have come to love this community, and if elected, I want to contribute my experience and skills to our town. So why school committee? Well, I am a lifelong educator with 40 years of experience in higher education, primarily in student affairs, and believe I can best contribute to this community as a school committee member. I am committed to public education and was educated in public schools from kindergarten through my master's degree. I believe that all children deserve an education that engages and inspires them. They also need to be prepared for the world ahead, to be able to think critically, act accordingly, and become active participants in their communities and in our democracy. I want nothing less for our children in Dartmouth. I know that that takes inspired and dedicated teachers and staff and administrators, and that is what we have here in Dartmouth. When done right, education is magical, and I've experienced that magic both as a student and as a teacher. Being the parent of a son who has been educated in Dartmouth Public Schools, our family knows from personal experience that the Dartmouth school system is outstanding. Dartmouth Public Schools has engaged our family both within and outside the classroom for the past 12 years. I want to ensure that Dartmouth schools continue to do what we already do well. But I am also an improvement-oriented educator, and I always have my eye toward what more we can do and what we can do better. I know there are challenges ahead for Dartmouth schools. I know we face difficult financial decisions. I know we have aging school buildings, and I know that nationwide we are facing a shortage of teachers. I know our children's mental health is affected by our increasingly complex world. While I may not know all the specifics of the challenges ahead, I will say this: I will show up and I will be prepared. I will seek first to understand the experience, concerns, and needs of teachers, administration, parents, and mostly our children. I will listen carefully and I will do my research. When I express my opinion, it will be thoughtful and well-reasoned. I am someone you can count on, and I won't let you down if I'm fortunate enough to earn your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
All right, let's go to our first question now, to be asked by Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Week. And the first question will go to Kyle Ross. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds, Kyle, to answer this question.
What positive steps should the school committee take to enhance teacher retention?
I think one positive step that the school committee and maybe the town overall could take is we could shop for a better health insurance policy for them. Right now, I believe it's a 52-48 split, and that eats into a lot of people's budgets. It's a very high number compared to a lot of other towns. I know, for example, Bridgewater, Rainham, they got an 80-20. I'm employed with the state where it's 75-25. I know it's a very complex issue and tough to, get a great rate, but there's got to be something better out there. And I think that would be one benefit that would really enhance us retaining top-notch educators in Dartmouth. I think the new superintendent has, she's in her first year, and she's really taken the bull by the horns. She seems like a very positive leader who I think may attract good staff here. And the school committee could also, really brainstorm to think of other benefits that may be able to keep good staff here. And if anyone has any suggestions, I'd be open to listening to anybody.
All right, Mary Beckwith, you have 1 minute.
I agree with Kyle on this. I believe one of the issues that are preventing retention or affecting retention is particularly the health care benefits. And so I think that should be a priority that the school committee could look into for retention of teachers. We know that there is a shortage of teachers, and so it's really critical to retain good teachers. I think also some concerns might be, as moving forward, we might have concerns about class size. And I think that becomes difficult for teachers when classes are larger than they should be, and it's very difficult to manage a classroom. And then finally, I think also, as an educator myself, promoting professional development opportunities for teachers, I think that is something that should really be enhanced as well.
All right, we now move on to the second question, which I will ask. It'll first go to Mary Beckwith. You'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this question. What specific actions or policies do you support or oppose regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in education?
Full disclosure, I work in diversity, equity, and inclusion at UMass Dartmouth, and have for the past 4 years. I'm a discrimination investigator. And so I'm a believer in that the only way to equality is through equity, and that is something that we should look at. I believe that DEI should be infused throughout a curriculum. It should not be a separate topic. And so I think curriculum should be reviewed to ensure that the experiences, the viewpoints of a broad range of people are included throughout the curriculum. I believe that everyone deserves a place at the table, and in addition to having a place at the table, they deserve to have a voice at that table as well.
All right, Kyle Ross, 1 minute.
Well, I think I'm gonna put my parent hat on here, and Dartmouth Public Schools does a great job with inclusion, equity across the board, diversity. My 11-year-old was born with Down syndrome. It's obviously a heavy subject for me, particularly the inclusion piece. And we've always felt welcome as a family in Dartmouth schools. Just today was World Down Syndrome Day, and the Quinn School was so welcoming to us. Well, we went in, and my son and his best friend, they played a short video, and then him and his best friend, they read off a little story about their likes and dislikes, how they're different, how they're similar. But, at the end of the day, they're just kids. And I think Dartmouth really does do a great job at welcoming all those kids under one umbrella. Every kid in the school, they rock their socks, they wore different socks.
Time's expired, I'm sorry. All right, thank you very much. Let's go to the third question now. It'll be asked by Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Week, and it goes to Kyle Ross. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds on this one.
Currently, the state has proposed legislation that, if passed, would require all schools in Massachusetts to choose a new name and logo if they are currently associated with Native Americans, including aspects of Native American cultures and specific Native American tribes, or which denigrates any racial, ethnic, gender, or religious group. This legislation would require the Dartmouth Public Schools to remove the Indian name and logo. Do you support this legislation? Please explain why or why not.
I don't necessarily support the legislation at the state level, but obviously if it passed, then we would have to follow the law, because that's how things work. But this particular topic went to vote in 2022. The town voted overwhelmingly 4-1 in support. I support that decision. I support the people's decision and their opinion. I think that good safeguards were put in place to ensure that the logo is used respectfully, thoughtfully, and in an honorable way to Native Americans. I have been to many football games, many basketball games and stuff like that. I've never seen a student disrespect the logo. I personally feel, being from this area, that with such a heavy Native American history, that I think it's a nice thing. If the state goes ahead and passes the legislation, then we have to do what we got to do. But I support the town's decision.
Mary Beckwith, 1 minute, please.
I haven't reviewed the legislation. I have heard about it and don't know much about it, so I really can't comment on it. But like Kyle said, if it passes and it's a law, then we have to comply with the law as the town. Personally, what I would say is that I'm not in favor of any groups, the ones that you named, Leah, right? Okay. The ones that you named being used as mascots. And I apologize to Notre Dame University, but I believe you can come up with something else other than to use a religious symbol or a racial or ethnic symbol. So that's just my personal feeling.
All right, let's go on to the next question that I will ask first to candidate Mary Beckwith. You will have 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer this question. As a parent, what new service or program would you like to see the Dartmouth Public Schools institute, and explain why?
Oh, good question. It's so impressive what the range of things that the Dartmouth schools offer our children in terms of the arts, in terms of sports, in terms of, I know more so about Dartmouth High in terms of clubs and after-school activities. And I know that our educators dedicate themselves to being coaches and advisors and things like that. So I don't have a lot of criticism about any of that. I think I would like to see organized sports at the middle school level, because I think that's a good age at which to start to engage in sports and try out different sports. We don't have organized sports at that level, and so a student cannot be an athlete until they get to the high school. So that's one thing that I would say.
All right, 1 minute, Kyle.
I actually think this is a very good question and a little more in depth than what was mentioned. Currently, with the budget situation, after doing a little research, we lose, it's known out there that we lose quite a bit of kids out of district, whether it be private school or school choice elsewhere. And our numbers depend on enrollment. Our budget depends on enrollment. And I believe that we truly do have to remarket ourselves as a school and find out why we're losing those kids. And we probably do need to, we offer great programs now, but we probably should look into expanding, maybe some low-end vocational stuff at the high school, and looking at where we can expand different things or create new programs to increase enrollment and keep our students in the town. I think it's a big deal that we lose people and we lose money because of it.
All right, Leah Beausoleil will ask the next question. It'll begin with Kyle Ross. You have 1:30 to answer.
Last year, the state increased Dartmouth Chapter 70 funds by only 1%. When asked, the State Department of Education said this was due to lower enrollment and a smaller portion of high-needs population in town. Assuming additional state funding isn't available, do you believe that the school department needs to request an override to maintain services, or do you believe they need to cut their budget to live within the normal yearly budget increase?
Yeah, after, again, doing some research into Chapter 70 funding, this is a big issue throughout the state. A lot of, with the pandemic ending, people have come off Mass Health and stuff like that and not necessarily been put back on. And when we're evaluated by the state for funding, the things like the SNAP program and Mass Health, all that is encompassed into our low-income population, the way the state looks at it. And because of having those numbers drop off, state funding has gone down. I think with, we came up with a great temporary solution this year, maybe next year. I believe if it comes to a situation where we have to have an override, and that's the only option that we have, then the school committee needs to work hard at being transparent. The select board needs to work hard at being transparent, and the finance committee. We all need to work together to make a nice presentation to the townspeople and the taxpayer so they understand where the money's being spent, where it's going to go, and let's highlight where we're short, highlight what's needed, and be transparent. This time around, it was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and I think that kind of upset the population.
All right, Mary Beckwith, 1 minute.
I believe that a tax override should be the last possible resort, and so that everything should be looked at before that. Can we make cuts? Can we stop doing things that we've always done that don't make sense anymore? Those kinds of things. One of the good things that's currently happening with the school administration is we're seeing budgets that are very detailed. And so we can really examine and drill down on most line items and figure out where money is going. And so, we have to look at all possibilities of getting more money. We need to talk with our state legislators and be, assertive about that. We also need to look at possible grants and writing grants to get more funds. But again, if there has to be an override, we have to be absolutely honest about it.
Thank you. Okay, we go on to the next question now, which I will be asking first to candidate Mary Beckwith. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this question. Numerous parents have expressed interest in opting their children out of certain classroom discussions on social agenda topics or reading assignments that don't align with their beliefs. Do you believe parents have a right to request this accommodation for their students? Please explain why or why not.
To a certain extent, yes. And we have gotten opting out notices on a number of things throughout the course of our son's education. So the school does offer that currently, and I think that's important for folks to know. I think that if it's something that's within the state curriculum guidelines, then I think we shouldn't be opting out, but I think we need to talk with those parents who are concerned about opting out of things, about what their concerns are, what they're frightened of, what they don't want, and also be transparent and provide information about what's really in that particular part of the curriculum or in that particular book. It's not my first instinct, and I think, as I said, the school already does that about things that might be of concern or things like that to parents, and we're able to do that.
All right, Kyle Ross, 1 minute.
Kind of one of the hallmarks of my campaign, and as a person, I'm a very transparent person. One of the things that I really loved about doing this time around was meeting a lot of people, talking to a lot of people, and as soon as I changed my social media to that I was going to run for school committee, I began to get calls, and I began to get a lot of parents that expressed frustrations with being able to communicate with teachers and administration about certain things that were conflicting. So I believe in full transparency on both sides, and the school committee should play a role. If I'll listen to the teacher on why you think this is a particular important thing, and I'll listen to the parent, and let's get together and make a decision.
Time,
but
please.
I do support it.
All right, final question for school committee tonight comes from Leah Beausoleil, and it'll go first to candidate number 1, Kyle Ross. Mr. Ross, you have 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer this question.
How would you foster public input on school committee topics and concerns?
Again, going back to a very transparent person, I would seek to have one school committee meeting a month to have an open forum session, kind of like a town meeting style, where you don't have to be on the agenda to speak. Serving on conservation, we've had many meetings where we're here late at night and everybody in the room is heard. We could do, parent surveys and reach out to parents through all different ways. But I believe the school committee and a member of the school committee should always be open to taking parents' opinions. The administration should always be open to taking parents' opinions. The superintendent's forum, I believe, was a great step in that direction to being more transparent in our district. I really, as a parent, I don't feel it was like that before. It was very difficult to get things done sometimes under the old administration, and Dr. Saber McGuire seems to be pointing us in the right direction.
All right, at this time, we would like to move on to the closing statements for our candidates.
I didn't get to answer the question,
Oh,
Paul.
I beg your pardon. Go ahead, Ms.
It's all
Beckman.
right. I am a collaborator, and I agree with Kyle that the school committee needs to be open to hearing from all and all concerns in any kind of format, in person, through social media, through email, whatever way that people want to express their concerns, I would be open to hearing it. And it is also the way you get new ideas for things as well. And so I am definitely someone who is curious to hear what people think. I'm not frightened by it. I'm not intimidated by it. And it helps me to formulate my opinions. So I'm very much open. I agree with Kyle. I think the superintendent's forum was a great start. The strategic planning that they're doing right now is also a great start. I filled out a survey, a lengthy survey last week, and so I think it's really important that we gather as much information as possible from as many people who want to tell us things.
All right, now we can move on to the closing
Thank
statement.
you, Paul.
And we go right back to Mary Beckwith. You've got 3 minutes.
For a closing statement?
Yes.
I won't take 3 minutes, so. So again, thank you to DCTV and to Dartmouth Week for arranging for this forum. I'm greatly appreciative. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight. I know it's an excessively cold March evening, so I appreciate that, and thank you to everyone who's watching from home. I'm grateful to have had this opportunity to speak with you and answer your questions. I applaud my opponent and everyone else that is running for office. It is my privilege to run for your school committee and for the possible opportunity to serve the town of Dartmouth. I want to support all of our learners, educators, parents, caregivers, and continue to provide our community with fine schools. I will seek the input of all and will listen carefully. I will show up and I will be prepared for whatever is ahead. I ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you again.
Thank you. And now Kyle Ross, your 3-minute closing statement.
In closing, again, like Mary did, I want to say thank you to Dartmouth Week and DCTV for hosting this event to ensure that our community can hear from every candidate. And again, like she said, I do applaud everybody that took papers out to run for office. It's not an easy thing to do, to put yourself out here on television like this or to go around and get the signatures. I encourage anyone with questions, please reach out to me directly. I've collected signatures. I met people in parking lots in February, and we had great discussions, and I met some really great people. I look forward to having open conversations and meeting more families throughout the community. Lastly, please mark your calendars, remind your neighbors, and go out and vote on April 2nd. It's the only way to ensure that your voice is heard, and if elected, I pledge to be your voice. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both candidates for participating in our candidates forum, Mary Beckwith and Kyle Ross. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to remind everyone that you'll be voting for one of these candidates on Election Day. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the Select Board candidate, so stay where you are. We're live at Town Hall here on Dartmouth Community Media. I am Paul Santos, your moderator for tonight's Candidates Forum. We now move on to the Select Board. I do want to remind you that there are 2 separate races for the Select Board. There is Lot 1 with the incumbent running unopposed. That is David Tattlebaum. And Lot 3, incumbent Frank Gracie, has chosen not to seek re-election. Would also like to let you know that John Souza had a vacation planned for the last 2 weeks in March before deciding to run for Select Board, and that's why he's not in attendance tonight. Again, we'd like to introduce the candidates. First of all, in seat number 1, Mr. Christopher O'Neill. In seat number 2 is candidate David Tattlebaum. At this time, we are now going to go to our opening statement, and the first thing I'm going to do is read the statement of Mr. John Souza, who is not here tonight. So here's the statement given by Mr. John Souza. My name is John V. Souza, and I'm announcing my candidacy for an open position on the Dartmouth Select Board. As a lifelong resident of our beautiful town, I have a deep commitment and a genuine interest in its future. My wife Connie and I reside at 674 Fisher Road. We have been married for 36 years and have 2 children and a son-in-law who reside in Dartmouth. We're also the proud grandparents of 2 boys. Our children and I attended Dartmouth Public Schools. I am currently retired but worked for over 40 years in management positions for the electric utility industry in the engineering and construction field. Besides currently serving as an active and vocal member of the Finance Committee, I have extensive experience in volunteering in other aspects of town government. I've been an active town meeting member for over 45 years. I currently serve on the Community Preservation Committee and have done so for the past 14 years. I am an elected and outspoken member of the Prudential Committee in Fire District 2. I proudly served on the Planning Board for 27 years, the Soils Board for 5 years, as well as numerous subcommittees such as the Master Plan Committee and the Open Space Committee. This broad experience has allowed me to gain a well-rounded understanding of the problems facing the town. One of the biggest issues facing Dartmouth is the looming budget shortfall. My experience on the Finance Committee has given me the opportunity to learn about the challenges of providing vital services to town residents while controlling taxes. I've been an outspoken advocate for retaining our valued town employees, including those in our school system, by providing a package of wages and benefits that is both fair and competitive when compared to other similar communities. At the same time, I am committed to finding workable solutions that minimize the impact on the taxpayers. I also see a need for improved access to all town departments as well as improved customer service. For several years now, I have heard complaints from residents, employees, business people, engineers, contractors, and others that Dartmouth has declined from the best town in South Coast to becoming the worst and least friendly in respect to conducting business and customer interactions with town officials and employees. That needs to change. These issues and many others facing the town require individuals who truly listen and who are willing to genuinely work together to find solutions. I promise to be one of those individuals. During the many decades as an elected and appointed official in Dartmouth, I have established a good working relationship with many of the town's employees and members of the town's boards and committees. As your representative on the Select Board, I will build on these relationships to foster cooperation among all town departments. Those who know me over the years recognize that I have been devoted to making Dartmouth a better place to live, work, play, and conduct business. I feel that the most valuable qualities that I can bring to the Select Board are common sense, integrity, objectivity, and a detailed knowledge of the town and its inner workings. My agenda is simple: to serve the town I love. I bring no baggage or hidden agendas. I am not a town employee. I do not have any business interests in Dartmouth. You can be sure that I will never have to recuse myself from any vote. I am proud to be a member of this community. I'm committed, have a proven track record, and have the necessary skills and experience to serve as your select person. I would consider it an honor and a privilege to serve the town of Dartmouth on the Select Board and ask for your vote on April the 2nd. Thank you for your time and consideration. Signed, candidate John V. Souza. Okay, at this time, we'd like to go to the opening statements for the candidates here. First of all, we start with candidate number 1, Christopher O'Neill. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Leah, also for your work to get the word out on all of us. My name is Chris O'Neill. I'm a candidate for the open seat on the Dartmouth Select Board. Before I tell you a little bit about myself, I'd like to thank Mr. Gracie for the work that he put into this particular seat over the last few years, and appreciate the work that he and his family have done, and wish them all the best. My story begins as the youngest of 7 in the West End of New Bedford. I attended Catholic Grammar School and Bishop Stang High School here in Dartmouth. While attending UMass, I started an advertising business and moved it from the back office of our family agency, from home into the back office of our family insurance agency, Tomlinson and O'Neill in New Bedford. I attained my insurance broker's license and began to work with my brother and father to grow the business. In 1997, my wife Christine and I built a home on Bakerville Road. We raised our 2 daughters and brought them through the Dartmouth school system, and we're very happy with their experience. I've kept myself pretty active over the years. I did my absolute best at DGAL, coaching soccer and softball as my girls were growing up. I've served on various boards, such as the Chamber of Commerce, was vice chair of the Greater New Bedford Workforce Investment Board, and served as president of the Greater New Bedford Insurance Agents Association for, I think it was over a decade. I've also worked on various charities and campaigns, and in 2012 formed our Family Foundation, and we were fortunate enough to donate over $50,000 to families dealing with pediatric burns. In September of 2020, I was appointed to the Dartmouth Planning Board and was elected unopposed for the seat in 2023. I was subsequently elected by the members of the board as their chairman last year. I also served the town as a member of the Charter Review Committee and as a commissioner on the SERPED board. And I thank you all for your attendance today and your interest in the race.
All right, for your opening statement, David Tattlebaum.
Thank you. Thanks to Dartmouth Week and the DCTV and Paul, you are the ultimate professional, whether you're doing a basketball game or this kind of event or singing a song for us.
Thank you.
Nice going. Just finishing my 6th year here on the Select Board, and before that I was involved in, way back when, town meeting, still a member, and also the Finance Committee for a number of years, which gave me a great grounding information about how the town runs and the finances. I'm recently retired, and why am I doing this? I have a great love for the town. I've been here a long time. My family, my kids, my grandkids. We've had a good life. And my wife and I were more than ever particularly on a mission to try to help somebody else on a regular basis. And there's a lot of really good things that we can do to make people's lives better here in town. There's some gigantic priorities that really affect us all on a day-to-day basis for living and being healthy. And I'd like to be able to stay on at least one more term to see if we can complete these efforts. Clean drinking water, a sewer treatment plant that needs to be either renovated or added on or demolished and replaced. These are day-to-day effects on our lives that we need to address that goes out a long, long way. The Crapo Hill landfill, which it has a life that's going to end, I'm told, 6, 7, 8 years from now. Critical issue, how do we solve it? And then our schools. I've been an advocate for schools. That's how I got involved in town government way back when, because I've always felt that not only do we get the greatest bang for the buck by the money we do have in our school budget, but what do we want from our schools? The budget we have is as low as can be. Our taxes are low, but what do we want? What kind of schools do we want? And I think the long term, it's not just about buildings. Yes, we do have old buildings, but it's more importantly about the people, the staff, the students, the administration. How do we, and anything we can do with the Select Board to support those schools and be reasonable is what I'm interested in just about more than anything else. Lastly, long term, we're looking COA. I'm now a member of that population that is retiring, and we have a population that's growing as seniors. What do we want to provide for services, activities, buildings? And we're doing a really substantial feasibility study now to get that done, because I think we need to study it. And a few years out, I think we'll be, and get input from the town. So I think the long-range planning is what really is the priority for me, and as well as a day-to-day budget and how do we spend our money and try to afford it. And it's been a particular honor and privilege to serve this town, and I really enjoy it. Not only enjoy it, but I think it's critically important, and I'm glad to do it. Thank you.
All right, our first question for the Select Board candidates will be asked by Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Week. It'll go to Christopher O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill, you'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question.
There are currently 25 known individuals facing homelessness in Dartmouth. What more do you believe the Select Board could be doing to help those facing housing insecurity?
It's a good question, Leah. Whether it's 1 or 25 or 2,500, it's a major issue for every community. And I think the approach to this really, in my opinion, has to be regional. You have to really engage, I think, with your state representatives, Chris Markey, and also State Senator Mark Montigny, who are working not only just in Dartmouth, but in some of the other towns in order to try and tackle this very important issue. I just think it has to be a regional approach. I've done a lot of lobbying for different issues with the delegation and even the federal delegation that we have on certain issues when it comes to my industry. But that's where you really need to get a little bit of some pickup is in the lobbying for certain funds that become available. But I think it really has to be done regionally.
Mr. Tattlebaum, 1 minute.
Thank you. Yeah, Dartmouth has a problem, and it is relatively small, but on the other, as Chris said, it doesn't matter how many it is. We have a group that meets on a regular basis regarding how do we deliver services, how do we pull people out of the woods, how do we treat drug addiction and mental illness, and how do we find a way to build more affordable housing. It's a gigantic issue. It's expensive, it's happening all over the world, certainly in our country and right here in our state and our town. So we need to keep that ball rolling and forward and getting. We had people in town, our youth advocate, been very involved. Matt Densero from the Council of Aging, he's there. He's stationed there. He's very involved in trying to find and service this homeless population. We just got to keep it going forward and keep the pressure on to make sure as a town and as a state we do the best we can.
Okay, this question will go to David Tattlebaum first. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this question. The town is currently severely understaffed in multiple departments with a high number of employee turnover as well. What can the town do to attract qualified candidates for these positions and also retain them for the long run?
Our turnover rate is no better, no worse than I think that's not only local but in our state and our country. People can find work in a lot of places. Wages are going up and benefits are going up, and it's a battle to keep good people and to find good people as well. I think that as far as our schools are concerned, I've been very involved in getting benefits and trying to redirect and regroup our health plan, and also a budget to do the best we can to keep raising, because I'm a firm believer we need to do that. Our health plan is something very important to retain good people, and hopefully we made a presentation to our select board last week, and hope to go to what they call as a high deductible plan, which will go as high as 70% of the cost paid by the town, and the town will also pay half the deductible. It's something that has to be, and I look forward to, we're going to be working with the school people first and their advisory board to try to present that. It has to be absolutely transparent. We have to work together to try to find it. That is probably the number one way to keep, retain, and find new employees is through health, and then, of course, our wages as well. So I look forward to trying to make sure we get that done and then move on to other ways to keep and retain people. We're working hard on that health plan.
All right, 1 minute. Mr. O'Neill.
I agree with David on this particular issue. I'll expound on it a little bit. I think just in my experience in the insurance industry for the last 37 years, I've had to deliver some pretty bad news. I've dealt with high deductible plans throughout my career, and it's all about the communication. It's all about trying to find out which plan works for that particular family. And I've done a lot of work in that area to try and help employers retain solid staff. The benefits are just a huge part of that. And secondly, you have to stay competitive. You have to keep the salary limits competitive. I'm not saying give away the store, but you have to make sure that if we've got a great person working for the DPW and they're looking at 3 other towns and they can beat us 3 times, that's not good. That's not good for retention. We need to make sure that we're competitive on the salary side. We need to make sure that we're really drilling down on the benefits, especially for our teachers, to make sure that we have the best teachers in town.
Time, please.
And those are 2 ways to do it.
All right, thank you. Next question from Leah Beausoleil. It'll go to candidate number 1, Chris O'Neill. You got 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer this question.
During a joint meeting with the Select Board, School Committee, and Finance Committee, there was a discussion on asking the town residents for a tax override to fund the school department's needs. However, there was no discussion on the other towns' departments' needs. If an override is presented to the voters, do you believe that it should be do you believe that it should represent the needs of all town departments or just the school department? Would you place them on the ballot as one question for all departments or multiple questions for each department?
Well, I think, Leah, if we do get there, a lot of what we need to do is make sure the communication's there. We need to make sure that we're communicating properly exactly what the needs are of the town and that people understand the concepts. It may not be just one department. The school department has been able to, let's hope, and we'll find out, I think, Monday, through their update on the budget, where they are as of late. And the other departments are going through some tightening and expanding in their budget also for no reason inside their own department, but say for transportation for the school department, 26% increase in expense, like that. And there's nowhere else to go. How do you answer that? How do you communicate that to the people at town meeting? I'm not sure where we're going to be, if we're going to need a 2.5 override or not. I hope not. I think they've continued to keep the pressure on David and his board, and I'll continue to do the same thing. I think it's a very important thing to try and keep the pressure on where we can. But I'll tell you, it's not getting any easier to run a corporation this size with the exterior pressures that we have on expense. So I'll keep a solid eye on it, but hopefully we don't have to go to 2.5 anytime soon.
1 minute, Mr. Titlebaum.
Yeah, the override interestingly came out as a result of the long-range planning committee, because we found out that not only going to be short, but the school budget was required, and that was going to be shortfall. So we focused on that because it was going to have to happen quickly. And thank goodness for the short term, we escaped the jailer on this one for 1 year, because we're able to jump onto some funds from school choice. Next year is going to be another adventure, but costs are not going down, they're going up, and I think it is. If it comes to that, I think we will absolutely, my view is that we will need to go to look at across the town in different budgets to look at it in a way that is going to be more encompassing and more time to do it. And time will tell us whether we'll have to and how we're going to do it. Thank you.
All right, we go right back to you, Mr. Titlebaum, for the next question. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this one. There have been numerous complaints about the time it takes to receive a building permit in town. In reviewing some of these complaints, they do not all fall on one department. What improvements would you like to see in the building permitting process, and how can you hold all town departments responsible for reviewing and rendering a decision on the permit in a state-mandated timeframe?
When we hired the building inspector, who is no longer with us a few years back, and unfortunately it didn't work out, he was hired to be what I would call a traffic cop, to help assist the applicants to what direction to go. They need to go to conservation or to planning or whatever. And it was an all-encompassing program. Plus, we also then instituted the online registry, which was a gigantic program and huge. And then he disappeared. And there's no, thank goodness, we finally, after a long search, we have hired a new inspector, experienced, and they're starting, I believe, a week from Monday or something like that coming up. We also, a second applicant, we also hired, and I think this is public information, but an additional inspector as well. Our service level at the building department has been challenging, to say the least. People have been irritated, but also they've understood the situation. We are going to have to do a much better job in servicing and getting that department back in shape, and getting also others in to put together a study group to maybe make some improvements. We promised to do that, and I look forward to do that once the inspector is in there, gets his feet wet, and understands the program we'll bring in to try to make those improvements and shortcut some of those problems. Communication has to be improved without any question. It was a challenging time, and I know people had a lot of issues with it. It's too bad. There's no worse department to have those issues in a building, because it requires so much work, so much data. Thank you.
Mr. O'Meal,
Paul,
1 minute.
not too much to add to that, to be honest with you. It's, it's such a crucial department, not only from a revenue standpoint, but just the sheer volume of work that those people have to go through. It's not easy. And most of the time, the people that are across that counter have seen better days. So it's even more challenging for the employees. So you have to listen to the employees. You have to implement some of the changes that they think will make the system better. You have to keep an ear open to those people that actually do the work. That's a very important aspect of management. And thank God we have been able to fill one of the most important seats just recently, and hopefully two. I hope it's public. Well, it's public knowledge now.
It is now.
And just make sure that we get that department back running as smooth as we can, because it affects almost every department in this town. The backlog can be felt right through conservation, through all the other departments. So it's really crucial that we get it and we get it right.
Time, please.
I think
All right,
we
thank
are.
you. Next question from Leah Beausoleil. Right back to you, Mr. O'Neill. 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer. And again, here's Leah.
Currently, the town has 3 separate fire districts, providing the town residents with a variety of services in each district. Do you feel this is the best way of providing this service to the town, or should these districts be consolidated into one department? Would you support a non-binding question to be placed on either the upcoming November 2024 or April 2025 election to gauge town resident support on this topic?
Leah, I think on that particular topic, what I'd need some significant study done prior to. I'd need to see what communities have this particular setup, which ones don't. I mean, Dartmouth is at 33,400 citizens, I believe. And so we're not a tiny town anymore. We're not a small town. But, the districts are running, they're running well, from what I understand. In order to go to a referendum, you'd really have to make sure that the study and the work is done prior to that to know how these types of setups are working in other communities, whether it's saving us money, costing us more, et cetera. So hard to jump just to a referendum on it without having some significant data to work from.
1 minute.
Sometimes I think you need to know how to hold them and how to fold them. This is a long tradition of 3 fire districts, and you could debate back and forth about could it be more efficient, could it save more town money. At one time, I thought it was really worth doing the study. I would say that at this point in time, like our structure of town government, there is no thirst to change our town meeting and our town meeting structure and our select board. And personally, I feel we have enough major issues to face that are really critical that in the dollars involved in redesigning and looking at the fire districts, maybe sometime down the road, but I think it would be a big mistake. Let's get long-term planning in order. Let's make sure we have a budget that we can live with and make sure our schools are properly funded, and then maybe we'll look at fire districts down the road. I think I'd probably get lynched if I was a major supporter of trying to look at it anyway. So, but that's my personal view.
All right, the next question is going to go first to Mr. Tattlebaum. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. The town currently owns very few buildable land parcels. Do you believe selling the old police station and associated land is in the town's best interest? What price would the building need to sell for, do you think, to make it worthwhile to the town?
At the risk of sounding repetitive about this issue, I am a firm believer that town meeting voted to demolish the building, and town meeting has only town meeting has the right to decide if we're going to make that change. We're in progress right now. I got an update Monday from our assistant town administrator. It's going to become rather public information about how this is going to deal, how we're going to deal with it, and put together a warrant on the next town meeting meeting in June to decide whether the town meeting decides whether we should sell it or we should offer it to the marketplace to find out if there is a thirst to buy that building and develop it. I don't think the town should be in the real estate business, the development business. My personal view, what I'm hoping, the town meeting says in the articles properly written and understandable, that says, let's put it up for sale, put some constraints on that, and hoping maybe we can be for housing, whatever that might be, so that we can end up with, if the town meeting decides, I certainly believe in the democratic process, that that's what town meeting votes. Let's try it, see what the marketplace says, avoid knocking the place down at the cost, and see where the chips fall. But let's leave it up to town meeting, make it decide with a good, prudent discussion at town meeting with a well-written article that's understandable that we vet out through our select board process over the next month or so before it hits the official article for town meeting. Thank you.
All right, 1 minute.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. I think David had a great idea initially when the Historic Commission came forward with this and their displeasure with the idea of demolishing the building. It really is, I think, a good idea to go to market. If it's going to save us $500,000 to, I don't know what the estimate would be now. $500,000 to demolish was an old number. It could be closer to $750,000, $800,000. I don't know, but it's going to be a lot of money. And if we can save that money and go to market with that particular property, then I say we vet that process out, make sure that the town's interests are covered, and make sure that we may want to grab a slice just to access to that back parcel, but we'll see how that goes. And I just think it's the right way to get this whole issue behind us is to go to market.
All right, Leah Beausoleil of Dartmouth Weekly has the next question for Christopher O'Neill. 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer this one.
The town has discussed a recreation center for numerous years. Recently, a building committee was formed to work with a project manager and architect to create plans for a center. Do you believe this project is a high priority for the town? If yes, how would you propose funding the project? If no, please explain why.
Well, ultimately, you can't complain about kids getting in trouble and vandalizing the mall, cemeteries, and all the things that you see, in the news every once in a while, without giving them alternatives. So I think a town this size needs to have some type of recreation center that we can all use, and hopefully regionally for the kids. So, whether it is a publicly owned, whether it's privately owned, time will tell. But, how it's financed, if it were a rec center, ultimately, the town has a very good debt-to-income ratio. You can do some financing for particular buildings, but I'd like to see where the private market is first, and hopefully we wouldn't have to spend the money, but time will tell.
All right, 1 minute.
This is probably requires the most democratic process of any decision to be made in town. For as many people who say this is a complete waste of time, we don't have the money, the budget is like choking us, don't do it. There's maybe just as many, if not more people that say we need it. It's a rec center that would service kids, seniors, and all kinds of activities. What we need to do is make sure that we lay out an open forum that let people know what the choice is, how we're going to do it, and how we think we can finance it, and then let the democratic process decide the issue. I get calls and emails, texts constantly about the issue, and they come from both sides. And each side claims that we have the majority, and we should be supporting whatever that process is. So it's a real challenge, and in a perfect world, we'd love to have it and finance it and be great. But in a less than perfect world, maybe it's just not going to work, and we have to do a good job, let people know what the choice is, how we're going to pay for it, and then let people decide, let the majority rule.
All right, the next question is going to go to David Tattlebaum. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. The town recently presented a 50-year capital plan. What are your thoughts on this plan, removing the water and sewer enterprise funds capital needs? What do you think of the top 3 capital project priorities for the general fund currently?
I was very involved in the process of trying to put this together. And there is danger, as I've said many times before, presenting this kind of thing because people start hearing about 10, 20, 30, and 50-year programs. Everybody thinks that all 3 schools will be built next week. The rec center and the water treatment, we're going to do it all, and we're going to do it all right away, and it's no problem. Well, that's exactly the way you cannot do it. And this is a typical place where you can take a business perspective of long-range plans and look at it in a public entity. And frankly, most people get scared the hell out of the whole concept because they look at, we can spend $300 million over the next 30 or 40 years, and it sounds like a lot, which it is. But in that, there are critical issues that have to be not only the most important, but absolute. And I've mentioned before about water and treatment, and the Paid Narren Bridge, our schools. And the other thing that we have to make sure we understand is there's also a major amount of government, state and federal grants available for all these plans. And if we think we need to spend $300 million for all these over 50 years, we have some real professionals in our town hall now that all they're going to be doing is long-term planning and grants, et cetera. So I'm very much in favor of doing it, and we'll put it out there. And our job is to educate people, once again, to understand it and then make an informed decision and vote about what we should do. Our job is to let people know what we're doing.
1 minute.
Paul, at the end of the day, it all comes down to communication. You need to run an organization this large and to provide the services that we provide and the town provides. and all of these very professional people provide, you need to communicate what those levels of expense are, what it costs on the capital side to maintain them. It's great to build a new building, okay, but let's remember we have to maintain it over the next 30, 40 years. So all of those expenses have to be brought into play. A lot of this has to do with communication. I think, we've got a smart constituency. So I think what the focus should be is just what David and his team have done, is to try and prioritize the needs and the wants list, just like every one of you do in your own home, and make sure that, you're looking at the needs first. The wants are still there. For a general community this size, there are certain things that we should be doing to make us attractive and to make us competitive for the other school systems and things like that.
Mike, please.
But it all comes down to communication.
All right, our next question goes right back to Mr. O'Neill from Leah Beausoleil.
There are numerous boards and committees still holding their meetings remotely. While this is convenient for many, others have expressed that it limits public participation. What is your feeling on remote meetings, and how can you encourage the public who cannot attend virtually to express their comments at these meetings?
Good question, Leah. The Commonwealth has allowed us to do this, and obviously it came out of COVID. But at the end of the day, I'll just tell you one experience that I had. I was in Turks and Caicos on vacation, and we had a meeting. I don't know if I was chair at that point, but we had a meeting for the planning board, and I attended from Turks and Caicos, and didn't miss the vote. Studied up prior to leaving, and it worked. I was able to communicate with my board members and got through that particular meeting. So there are times that this is great. I haven't heard, to be very honest with you, many people say that they would rather be in a room in town hall versus the Zoom meetings. Some of the public hearings, I think, we can switch. We have the ability to switch out to the high school if it's that big. We wouldn't do it online. But for more of the mundane day-to-day operations, I think the Zoom is working okay. Thanks.
I think the Zoom saved this town and many other organizations way back when. We had 3 town meetings on Zoom. The first one went a little slow, and I remember seeing some guy watching me eat his breakfast on Zoom. He didn't realize he was being videoed, and everybody learned that you can't do that. Zoom has tremendous benefits, certainly as we go forward, as people have more live meetings. But there are committees in town that they decide that they want to do Zoom only, and that's their privilege. It looks like the state, I heard the other day, that they're going to have another vote to extend the ability to make choices, whether you want Zoom or Zoom not, or hybrid. And time will tell, but it's a personal choice on some of these committees. I think maybe people would come more often, or attend if it was held publicly, but in the town hall. But it's a very individual decision. But overall, Zoom has been great for all of us, and we'll see how it goes forward.
Paul, just to add to that,
Yeah.
The select board is obviously in the building. The planning board is not. So if I'm fortunate enough to gain your support, I'll be here in person. My wife will be thrilled because she can watch The Bachelor on Monday nights. So,
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Talabon?
What is The Bachelor? I'm not sure
come
what that
on,
is.
you know what it is, Dave.
All right, the final question tonight for the Select Board candidates. We begin this one with David Tattlebaum. You got a minute 30 to answer. There are several proposed charter revision articles for the spring 2024 town meeting. Many of them are requesting that some elected boards change to appointed boards. If these are approved at the town meeting, the questions will be placed on the April 2025 ballot. Now, do you support these changes? Do you believe the town meeting should forward these questions to the general election, whether they agree or disagree with those changes?
I haven't seen every single change, but I'm very much in favor of making adjustments, and whether it be a controversial issue like whether a particular office should be elected or appointed. I know they've tweaked a lot of issues that allow us to do a better relationship, have a better relationship with committees and how we work, whether it be advisory or not. I haven't looked at them all, but I'm very much in favor of making those adjustments if we can. As I said before, there is no thirst of any kind to change what we're doing in terms of our structure, our town administrator, our town meeting, and select board. What we should be doing in the meantime is making these adjustments. They're hard because they're presented to the select board, they're then put on a town warrant, they're presented at town meeting, and then there is an election on a ballot. So it's not easy to do. Hopefully we can tweak some of them where it doesn't require that process, but I'm all in favor of making any adjustments that the democratic process says are going to work and people think is worth, because we need to keep making it more efficient and our ability to relate to committees and boards so that we can do a better job within the framework of town we have. It's hard to run a government like this. I've said it many times, if I had to run my old business like you have to run town government, I would have been out of business a long time ago. It's really hard, a lot of restrictions, a lot of independent groups, but within that, if we can make these tweaks and work together and have better communication and more workshops, then you can work together better, because it's a tough thing to do.
All right, 1 minute.
Actually, Paul, I'm on the Charter Review Committee as one of my assignments from the Planning Board. And, we vetted this issue a lot. And one of the issues that I had with it was I needed to go back to my particular board, the Planning Board, and get their input on it. So I did just that. And they wanted to be elected. They wanted to run for their particular seats. They did not think that the Select Board should appoint the Planning Board seats. I went back to the Charter Review Committee and let them know what the feedback was from my particular board, and we were able to carve out the planning board in these changes. There are some boards that will come forward as appointed versus elected, and believe me, this process is not easy. Being up for an elected seat is a lot of work. I can see why some people would rather not do it, but I think we've carved out a couple of good options, and you'll see them very soon.
All right, so now time for our closing statements. We begin with David Tattlebaum. You have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
Thanks. And it sounds kind of corny, but it's not. It's really an honor and a privilege to serve, because there's a lot of good comes out of all this, and I want to try to do the best I can. Whatever that means. To me, that means the democratic process, satisfying as many people as we can so that the majority rules, and we do it in a way that people are informed. I get particularly irritated when people are not informed, they don't have the facts, they don't find a way to get the facts, and they make a decision based on a personal choice as opposed to having informed decisions. And that goes back to what I think is a real priority going forward for me personally, as well as I think our select board going forward, is how well we communicate. We paid a bit of a price going to all these online registrations. I think that we've had such a reduction in activity in town hall because you just don't have to come in here as often. You've all heard about the thousands of applications we now process for beach stickers and for shellfish permits. I heard that one the other day. Many of the shellfish permits people, they don't want to do online because they don't even have a computer. They just want to go out and get their cohogs and have supper tonight and then go back again because they love doing that. Well, we need to be flexible with that and better communicators, so maybe over time it takes a year or two to get that online. I think we paid a bit of a price as far as the communication is concerned. We have a new director. There's so many good things going on that people either don't know about or we haven't been well informed enough to do, and we are challenging our town administrator to do a better job to get out in the field as one of his priorities and let people know what's going on, to be more present. I think that is definitely an issue. And we have, in today's world, newspapers are, we have really one outstanding newspaper. The Dartmouth Week really does a great job. I advertise on it and know it well. And it's a weekly that does a great job. They're always at meetings, they report. But let's face it, it's not a daily with 50 pages of a newspaper that comes out that we all grew up in years and years. Those days are gone. And even social media changes dramatically. How do you let people know what's going on? Our communications director did a survey. How do people want to be reached? And we're trying to do the best we can via would it be our website in town, Engage Dartmouth, all the different social media platforms. We need to do a really good job to let people know what we're doing, so once again they can make informed decisions and let the majority in the democratic process prosper. And I regard that. Our long-term planning, budgeting on a yearly basis, and communicating better and better is a real priority for our select board going forward on all the real important issues. So once again, thank you so much and appreciate your support.
All right, 3-minute closing statement, Mr. Christopher O'Neill.
Okay, thank you, David, for staying with it. Thanks to Paul and to Leah and to all of you for being here. I view running and hopefully being elected to the Select Board as just an extension of my community work. I'd love the opportunity to preserve the character of Dartmouth, to make sure that our thriving town continues to have our school system as a major point of pride, and our first responders continue to be held in the highest regard, that we continue to look for slow, smart growth and a steady tax base to buoy all of our property values, and to keep pressure on spending, taxes, fees that we all pay, residents and businesses in town. Lastly, I'll pledge to work with all the town boards and the administration to make sure that our employees are heard and our services are streamlined and always customer-centric. I respectfully ask for your consideration on April 2nd. Christopher O'Neill, Dartmouth Select Board. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to remind everyone that David Tattlebaum is running for Select Board Lot 1 unopposed, and that Christopher O'Neill and John Souza are running for the Lot 3 position. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight and watching on DCTV and on YouTube. We'd like to remind you that the election is Tuesday, April the 2nd, 2024. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. The final day to register to vote in the town election is this Saturday, March the 21st, and the town clerk's office will be open on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Absentee voting is available if you cannot make it to the polls on Election Day. All requests for the mailed-out absentee ballots must be received at the town's clerk's office by Tuesday, March the 26th. I'd like to thank Leah Beausoleil from Dartmouth Week for participating here tonight. DCTV will have a live election results show on April the 2nd, starting at 8 p.m. with Mike Watson and myself. Thanks again for coming out. I'm Paul Santos, and we'll have a great night.